There was just a report released that is stating the high likelihood that a lot of the Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers, including NIO, could face bankruptcy or failure in the near future. In this video, we're going to be covering some of those statements, going over kind of the paths forward for a lot of these Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers here, the overall state of the electric vehicle market in China, and then all the other pieces of news surrounding NIO right now to keep you guys up to date, as well as talking about the chart and what we could see moving forward. So before we get into all of that information, guys, again, if you guys do enjoy the information and analysis I provide for you guys in these videos here, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it helps me out a whole lot in spreading this information out to as many people who actually want to learn. And again, if you never want to miss another video like this, make sure you guys are subscribed and turn on notifications so you're notified every time these videos do go live. And again, with all of the volatility that we are seeing in markets right now, guys, those of you guys that are taking advantage of it through day trading, futures trading, again, one of the main problems with a lot of these traders is they are significantly undercapitalized. Again, that is where a lot of these prop firms come in. Again, Apex Trader Funding is offering an 80% off sale right now. You guys can have 20 accounts with them and you can get millions of dollars in funding. If you guys are interested in that, make sure you guys use code VIX with that link down below there and get yourself some more capital to trade with at a very, very, very low cost. So let's get right into it over here. The probability of NIO, XPeng, and LI Auto surviving independently in the next 3 years is zero, China's automotive analyst says. In the Tencent news panel called Auto Market Hot Topics, Professor Zhu from the School of Automotive Engineering at Tongji University discusses the future of the 3 EV startups, NIO, XPeng, and LI Auto. According to Zhu, if none of the 3 EV startups go bankrupt, their probability of existing independently is zero. They must merge, restructure, and cooperate as soon as possible. According to Zhu, any EV maker that sells under 2 million vehicles a year will not survive, as the scale would be too small and the R&D cost would be too high. That is something that NIO has struggled with time and time again over the last couple of years, those crazy high amounts of R&D costs. If the R&D investment is small, the technological process will stop. With such high R&D investment and such small output, you will die. The analyst sees LI Auto as the current winner, who managed to avoid big mistakes. XPeng relies too much on software and ignored the hardware side of the vehicle in the early stage, which led to product problems, but it seems this was fixed with introducing Wang Fengying, former CEO of Great Wall Motor and XPeng's CEO. NIO's William Li is too concerned about creating atmosphere and doesn't focus enough on R&D investments. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say NIO isn't focused enough on R&D investments, but not necessarily the types of R&D investments that are actually going to generate some sort of significant amount of return for the company in the near future. And that is exactly what NIO has struggled with time and time again. Another panelist attending this panel here, again, Lee believes that if LI Auto can succeed in the electric vehicle market, its future development will have an advantage over the other 2 EV startups. If new all-electric models can replicate their success in the EREV market, LI Auto will be able to expand its market share further and increase sales and profits. And furthermore, Lee believes there are currently too many brands in the EV market that need to die. I don't think there will be many companies that can survive because, after all, the elephant in the room is called BYD. I don't think other small companies will have much value in existence here. Another analyst argues that if we agree to the 2 million sales volume being the survival threshold, with about 20 million future EV sales per year in China, only 10 companies can survive. So when you're thinking about this as a whole, guys, we have talked about the overall competitiveness of the Chinese electric vehicle market time and time again, and NIO really has not been able to get a strong footing in this market for a wide variety of reasons. Again, some of those reasons we've talked about in the past are, again, operating as a luxury electric vehicle in a macro environment, and honestly, the domestic market in China, where you have a weak economy and overall weakening financial conditions globally, it makes it a lot more difficult, again, for consumers to justify spending a lot more money on these nicer and more premium electric vehicles. Now, that is where Onvo and coming up Firefly are going to come into play here. But again, as we've seen, the launch of Firefly in really the first kind of quarter and a half year, 2 quarters, has not been up to everybody's expectations. And one of those kind of last ditch efforts here to try and get NIO to that profitability metric by the end of this year is, again, to have Firefly really knock it out of the park, have Onvo really pick up steam here, because those flagship models are probably not going to be the main drivers of revenue based on the things that we have just talked about with those weakening and overall weak economic and financial conditions. So again, we will see how this situation continues to develop over kind of the next couple of quarters here. There could be some room for cooperation and maybe even mergers in the future. But again, these are risks in a highly competitive electric vehicle market. So moving on to a couple other pieces of news here. NIO reaches its 100,000th car delivery in Shanghai, a significant milestone for the EV maker. And kind of before we get into the chart of NIO, which I do want to talk about here, I want to kind of just give everybody a refresher on what happens, again, because we are in very uncertain times. We have a lot of uncertainty in the global environment with this new trade war with really mainly China at this point. And we did have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying that he does not rule out delisting China stocks. What I want to make clear to everybody is that if Chinese stocks do get delisted, it doesn't mean that your investment just goes directly to zero. It might be a little bit less liquid. It might trade over the counter, but it's not going to go directly to zero. But there is going to be a price impact because of that. Moving over here again, once a stock is delisted, a company's shares can keep trading through a process known as over the counter, but it also means the stock is outside the system of major financial institutions, deep liquidity, and the ability for sellers to find a buyer quickly without losing money. Now let's move on to the actual chart here of NIO, talk a little bit about the price action and see where this thing could head moving forward here. So again, we had been talking about this zone on NIO time and time again between this 420 and right around 360 area here. I did kind of expect this area to hold. It still held relatively well here. We are back at this area, but what we are doing now is going to form a major decision point for NIO moving forward. What we could be witnessing here is a break, a retest of this zone for continued downside movement here, depending on what happens with the broad market. Now, on the flip side, you also have to consider, again, those of you guys that are in the Less Trades, More Profits community, you know exactly what we would be looking at here. Again, if we end up having this nice period of consolidation here, and then you break to the upside, you could, depending on what's actually happening with the Chinese electric vehicle market and the overall sentiment towards these Chinese stocks, you could see NIO go on a nice burst back up to this $4 area here, maybe get back into those zones that we were chopping around in for about a couple of weeks there. But again, everything that you're thinking about with NIO right now, with the potential volatility moving forward, the effects of the trade war, which again, NIO isn't selling any electric vehicles in the United States, but as a part of some of these negotiations that the United States is having with the European Union, there could easily be some changes, and this has already been hinted at, to kind of the trade relationships that the EU has with China, specifically as it relates to their electric vehicles. So that could harm the Chinese electric vehicle market too as a whole, not just NIO, XPeng, Li Auto, BYD, all of the other big names there as well. So we are really at a major decision point, an inflection point here in NIO. We'll have to wait and see what happens next. Again, we are kind of looking for that break and retest here. You really want to get deeper into this zone in order to kind of feel a little bit better about that potential break to the upside there. So guys, that is going to wrap up this video here. If you guys did enjoy the information and analysis I provided for you guys in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it helps me out a whole lot, spreading this information out to as many people who actually want to learn. And again, if you never want to miss another video like this, make sure you guys are subscribed, turn on notifications so you're notified every time these videos go live. So until next time, guys, I will see you. Peace.